Hello everyone, this is Dorian Sari and we are at Kunstmuseum Basel, Gegenwart. In the context of my exhibition Post-Truth, there is one more arts project and it's called Archive of Emotions. This project contains 10 episodes of video broadcasting. In this video broadcasting, I invited 10 people, generally from Swiss art scene, 5 artists and 5 curators or institutional representatives, to talk about post-truth, violence and anger, actually. Because I believe during this last period of time, during this pandemic situation, we've been a little bit disconnected. And I think it was very necessary to come together and talk about what is happening. Not only in the art field, but also in our personal lives. Because generally in the art field, what's happening behind of the walls, they are not visible. We are generally showing what is the result. And what happens in the process generally is not known by the spectators. And in this project of Archive of Emotions, I would like to get a little bit more into the details of these people in the art community, how they are living their life, and how is it going in their emotional level, what's happening in the world, and how did it affect in their artistic engagement projects and everything. And to be able to frame this, I suggested to our guests to the book that I wrote for this exhibition. And the reason that I wrote this book, because as you know, the topic is post-truth. And I believe the best way to deal with the post-truth is truth-telling and sharing, making a good storytelling. And I suggested to our guests, if they have time, they could read the book. If they have a little bit time, I suggest a couple of articles. Or if they don't have time, we will just generally talk about post-truth, violence, and anger. And today, we have Hanna Weinberger with us as the first guest. I'm very excited to have you here, Hanna, because this is not something that I'm used to do, and you know me well, that I am someone who has a lot of thoughts about what's happening, and time to time I call you, I share my thoughts with you, and you are this great person for me not to make me feel alone, actually, because sometimes I feel like I'm going too far in my mind. And I feel a little bit alone with my thinking, and it's always an amazing sport to hear you, your echo, your voice, to say that I'm not crazy. So it's an amazing beginning for me to start this series with you. And and I know that you've read the book, and for your information, we didn't prepare anything besides that giving the book to the guests. And this shot at the moment, it will be very random. That's the beautiful thing, and that's the necessary thing about truth-telling, I believe, and being honest and direct. So, Anna, thank you so much again for coming and being my first guest. How are you, first of all? How is it going?
Thank you, Dorian. Thank you for inviting me. I'm fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm totally fine. I hope you're well.
Yeah, I try.
We have this amazing friend with us.
Yes, pink balloon, which might pop any second, but I hope not now. Yeah.
This beautiful work that would actually stand alone in this space in your exhibition. And I find it actually really nice to accompany this, or this, that the sculpture is accompanying us.
Yeah.
Also this air, it's literally just air.
Yeah.
So I might say I also feel a bit like a balloon.
Yeah?
I'm not pregnant or anything, but I do feel a bit like a balloon.
Okay, okay. For me, when I decided to work with this balloon, it was really representing for me, symbolically, I wanted to have a material which shows this expansion. And also the anger, you know, you use your mouth to blow this balloon and you say something, your air inside of it and etc. and it might pop up. And when it comes to our topic, post-truth, violence and anger, there are so many stuff are happening in the world, and we are bombarded with data every day through mass media, social media, or in our daily lives in the streets, and most of these things are negative. And almost all of them, they are selected by people that we have no idea. And how do you deal with this bombardment of information? Are you also someone angry? Or if you are angry, how do you manage this anger? I ask these questions because time to time I have problem to deal with this anger. Because one thing to add to that, it might be, I think there is a lack of guidance. There is a lack of, I don't know, not icons, but like role models in the society. People, they are not talking about this so much, I have the feeling. These topics, what's happening in the world, generally we are talking over the phone or when we are gathering together, but when it comes to in front of the cameras, I don't see regular people, the regular people's talk. I see generally people who has fantastic rhetorics. They know how to put one word after another to just give an information. I don't see a lot of dialogue with people, actually. So, again, how do you deal with anger? Are you an angry person when it comes to these topics?
I would say yes and no. I mean, one thing that kind of prevents me to being angry, or maybe also differently, maybe not just being angry, but staying in a bubble or in a box, is to basically still stand on your feet, kind of trying to be aware, trying to still interact, to meet people, to approach things like in the first way, as if you never saw something like this before, for example, this, or if I go out, if I go into public transportation, this is one of the maybe easiest examples, public transportation. That's where you see all the other people, all the other users or the non-users, the elderly people that have a different narrative, also when it comes to technology and mechanisms, etc. And I don't see myself as, let's say, an exception or as like a specific individual with, let's say, a different perspective than others. I very much try to basically embrace what is around me, and also that's why maybe I'm not, let's say, the best activist, because I'm trying to just use let's say, tools that others use, trying to understand them, trying to understand different ways of communication and information, and but also not in a theoretical way, really just on a daily life basis, and also trying to connect as much with a variety of people. That's why public transport, I really started to use less and less public transportation and more the bike. But if I want to go back and basically face, let's say, the social reality, I just sit inside a bus or a train or a tram. And it might be frustrating, the ride, but it also might be a lot of fun.
You use the word activism. Do you think activism is something like black and white? Like somebody has to really declare themselves like I'm an activist? Or I personally, for example, think everything is political right now, because from the clothes that we are wearing to the food that we are eating, for the electricity or the gas that is used for the car or anything that we are doing, it's global, you know. Everything that we are touching I mean, it's one material is coming from China, the other is coming from, I don't know, Somalia, the other is coming from Argentina, and they get composed together. So I believe with everything that we are doing, we have a globally butterfly effect. And also, for example, everything that we are saying or everything that we are wearing, even the hair color, it can be something political. It can be a message. It's depending how the people that we don't know in the streets, in the social life, they are perceiving it. And I believe, what do you think about this activism? Because even wearing a mask with, I don't know, LGBTQ flag, it's already something very big activism. You don't need to go to the streets every day and demonstrate. You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's also a good example. I think one is an activist when you have the possibility to make choices and to be aware. That kind of, I don't know if this is a definition of activist, but for me personally is kind of, that's basically it. Some people, they don't, I mean, you're now also describing a specific, let's say also community or communities, people that, individuals that have this possibility on reflecting on literally everything or anything they would like to, and to make a point or to start really activating, mobilizing. But many people don't have this possibility. So they don't have the possibility to reflect nor the possibility to choose. And I think this kind of also excludes a large part of our population, or inhabitants. It can be humans as animals. And so this is for me personally. So yes, I think all people surrounding me, young people, elderly people, artists, I consider them as activists of some sort. Some people are more active, some are more gifted to activate because it's part of their nature. Some are less. So I think, let's say, yeah, it's a specific, and I wouldn't say activists are a specific group of people or specific, there's no character I could, you know, I have in front of me embodying this activist person. But I think we shall use it if we can. And the other thing also connected to that is that this is the way I think one can deal with anger. Anger can be a very positive tool or emotion, more an emotion than a tool, but it can also be a very negative emotion. And I think there's two things to it, because this positive connotation that it can have has the capability of mobilizing. How you can verbalize what anger is for you, and how to use it productive and also in an inclusive way, unless there is anger connected maybe to frustration, where then suddenly you find yourself in a limbo, and that's also what one could call depression.
Exactly.
And this then again is not activism. This is when you go to sleep. Even though sleeping can be activism as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And what I wanted to say is, so do you have any personal techniques when you come across with someone who uses the anger negatively? Because also there are so many people. They are screaming. You say you make one little mistake. I mean, we are not perfect, you know. We can make mistakes sometimes. For example, one example, time to time when it doesn't happen with everybody, but it all personally happened. That's why I want to share this one. I met with a non-binary person who used the gender-neutral pronouns they, them. And at the beginning, they introduce themselves that we have to use they, them pronouns. And it's totally fine. But if the person is not used to use these pronouns, they might do because when you're talking, you don't think all the time, and you can make mistakes. And I saw a couple of times that this person explode. Didn't I tell you it is unrespectful? And this is, for example, according to me, it's a negative side of the anger. When you come across this kind of things, I mean, I don't want to specify here about the non-binary thing. It's just one little example of many, 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 many different things. But how do you deal with the person in front of you if they explode to you with the negative anger? Do you have some techniques to deal, or do you prefer to run away or silence or?
I mean, also there, I guess I have maybe a variety of reactions. One is maybe if you ever have been into a shock situation, then you know how your body will react. This is but more connected to maybe a violent act that you're confronted with. So some people, they just stand still, they turn into a stone, silent, don't move, and some people have the capability to react, to defend themselves. And I learned when I was pretty young that I have the capability of running, of moving, of gathering strength that I didn't know that I had. So this, since I was 10, is a good thing that I know, that I have this. Maybe I'm not gonna elaborate on this, but I was almost kidnapped. I was close to be kidnapped.
How old you were?
10, I was 10. And so I was a child, obviously never expecting something like this.
Yeah.
And since then, I kind of felt empowered because I realized, I know this is what I'm capable of, unconsciously. But then I'm like the type of person that it depends. Either there is a situation where I can throw the balloon back to the person, and then to make it burst, so it's just the person itself is maybe confronted with the situation, it just put themselves in. Or I'm also someone that when I'm very angry, I cry. If I'm very sad, I don't cry somehow.
You're very lucky.
But if I'm angry, very angry, then I cry, and I can cry for a long time.
Yeah.
So this is basically my way of dealing with anger.
Yeah. And okay, and I think, I think we are all aware that we live in, the society, not only here, everywhere, it's very hierarchical. And I believe there are two different types of hierarchy. One is horizontal, which very rare to see. Very, very, very rare to see that everybody, even though there are hierarchies, but it's horizontal, that everybody has the same space and time, everybody is dialoguing, listening each other, and then the top of the hierarchy is making a decision, but everybody has equal amount of power, but at the same time, the majority that we are living is a vertical hierarchy that we are not obviously on the top of these kind of things. And as if I know you correctly, you are also not someone who is for this giant vertical hierarchy situation as well. So, and when it comes to handling this anger in the vertical hierarchies, that you don't even know maybe your tops, people who makes the final decisions and everything. How dealing with this type of anger, it becomes much more difficult to anger. The reason that I want to say that, for example, there are tons of manifestations that are going on. No, young children, students, teenagers, us, we made manifestations Fridays, and not maybe in these last weeks, but we made since a long time manifestations, for example, for climate change. And these young people, they are the future, and there is nothing concretely is changing. And maybe we learn how to manage this anger after a certain age, but how it will be with these young people, you know, because it brings a giant disappointment. They are screaming in the streets for this. We have so little time left, and it has to be now. But there is nothing. I mean, one little example. Every time I'm going to Migros, there is 0 cucumber without plastic cover, you know? And every time I'm asking on purpose, is there a cucumber without plastic? You know? And I believe, and this thing, it's not changing, or not because I ask it, but also for the political levels or institutional levels. This is just one example. And what do you think? Is there a problem? Is there a lack of communication between us? For example, if all of us were going to Migros and everybody is saying, hey, do you have a cucumber without plastic? Maybe Migros would change? Or is this a good example to maybe how to manage the anger? Or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very big topic, but I would like to hear what you think.
I mean, concerning the cucumber, I think to change this is to come up with another wrapping solution, because I read that the problem with the plastic around the cucumber is that if they deliver the cucumber without plastic, they turn very fast into these lumpy cucumbers in hours, like during the transport. So apparently this is actually a logistic and handling problem with this vegetable that is different to others, apparently, because it's consisting.
But we didn't have plastic around the cucumber before. I mean, 10 years ago, were there plastic around the cucumber?
No, you're talking about the biological cucumbers.
Yes.
Because 10 years ago, we had the cucumbers, they were almost artificial cucumbers.
Okay.
And now they have natural cucumbers consisting of more than 90% of water. And apparently they really, I don't want to defend Migros, but they're really getting lumpy without the plastic.
Okay.
So I think one solution is we need to find a solution for the cucumber and approach Migros.
Yeah.
So this is one way. Besides, I don't think, even if we're 200 people post-corona times entering the Migros, we won't get anywhere, because the people working at the Migros, they won't, they can't be held they're not in charge for the cucumbers. But so I think this is one thing, but I know where you're pointing at. I still think, or I still believe that even if the machine rolls as slow as it does now, nothing is happening. Even some small things are starting to happen. And even if the young people and the younger ones to come, to join them, if they stay out there, it is more than healthy to grow inside of this like-mindedness. If they stop going out, they will end up alone and thinking that they're crazy, thinking that they're the only ones. So I think it's still important that this discourse happens, even though the changes are too slow, obviously. And so I really hope that this kind of strength will continue to grow and not the other way around. And I believe it will, because it's facing us. It's facing, I mean, we're all confronted with it, even if you're like so politically minded, or even if you live there or here. Obviously, some parts of the world are much stronger affected by climate change, but it's coming. It's coming to us, and we can see it. And even in the most privileged areas of the world, people can't hide away from climate change. So,
And you have 2 children. Do you talk about, for example, about this topic with your children? But they are also very little. I don't know. How is it going? Or at their kindergarten, at the school, do they talk about these kind of things? Or how is your approach with your partner?
No, they ask a lot about these things. Even if if I wouldn't talk about it, they now they're in the age, they're 5 and 6, and they're in the age of questioning everything.
Yeah.
So they question, why are we here? Why do we have to die? What does it mean to die? What does it mean to be born? Why is the sky blue? Why this, why that? So actually, I'm currently confronted with a lot of very existential questions. And the interesting thing, often I cannot answer the question. I cannot, for example, one specific example is one child asked, why, oh look mommy, why is there the moon? Why do we see the moon? It's daylight. And then before I could answer the question, the other child responds, because now it's night on the other side of the world, so the moon never disappears. So I realized they already have the answers to many, many questions. So I cannot confront them with some systems, with some mechanisms, with science right now, although we also have a different, my partner and I, different ways of speaking to them. Yeah. Maybe he's more the scientific kind of person, I'm more the bringing the ball back to them kind of person. But I realized that these questions are important, and they're now, right now, shaping their personalities or also their aims. And yeah, so I realize also in terms of dreaming, you know, having nightmares, having dreams, it starts very early, before you even realize that the world is round and that there are many different kind of people living in the world. But yeah, I know they have a very healthy way of living, of inhabiting actually our world. And I really hope that they can still be children as long as they can. Many, again, I'm always going, many don't have this possibility. They have to grow up so fast and then make decisions, or are shaped by their surrounding, so that they cannot still live in a lot of imagination, which is so important and healthy for us in society.
Okay. And is just my curiosity, is it helpful being an artist when you're talking with the children? I don't have children, so I don't know. But you know, when you're an artist, you have tiny little bit different perspective to see the life, even materials, the light, how is it coming, or the sound of the tram. I don't know. We have, for according to our preferences or whatever, as a whatever material or the tool, or we see the stuff tiny little bit different than the people, I believe. I don't want to judge or separate, but than the people who are maybe, I don't know, starting to job at 9 and finishing at 5 or 6. You know what I mean? We work 24 hours. Everything is our inspiration. And is it, I don't know, is it nicer being an artist and parent for a child? Do you see with other parents who are not artists with and how they communicate with their children? Or is it a stupid question? It's just like, I don't have a child, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no, it's funny. It's something we should almost ask children of artists. I mean, I guess this is also a very diverse thing, how artists are handling their life, their personal life, if they try to disconnect their work to their daily life. Basically, some artists might decide that their work takes place in a studio, which I find legitimate, and that it takes part during a specific time, let's say from the morning to the evening, or and then, then it's totally different. I think for some children with parents that are artists, growing up, it's maybe also not so easy, because you're always confronted, as we are, with questions like when we meet people that are maybe not in the art world, they ask us very basic questions like, do you paint, or why don't you paint if you're not a painter, and all these kind of things. So children of artists also get confronted with these questions that can be very overwhelming and put them in a situation where they suddenly have to define themselves as children of artists, or what does it mean? And we don't have this discussion yet, or let's say my work or the way how I make work is also super fluid, spatially, discursively. It's very connected to my daily life, although I don't work autobiographical, or I don't include the kids actively in, let's say, a process of making a show or creating a specific work, but they come close. And the only thing that I think what I heard my daughter say to someone that, because now obviously they're trying to figure out what they want to become in life, which they don't have to yet, but they play around this thought. And then sometimes it's like an astronaut is a dream, or someone that's cleaning the street and driving with this big truck, where you put the garbage in. They have a dream of being this person. And I heard her say recently that to another child, my mother, she's working. She just decided herself what she's going to be, and she's just doing what she wants. And I somehow liked that she had this explanation. This is how she told a friend of hers what her mother is working, while the other friend's mother had a specific job with a specific task. And I think it makes it sometimes more complicated to be a parent, an artist parent, than if you're a doctor. And it's clear what your job, what your aim is. You're trying to help people, to give medical assistance and so on. In my case, it can always change the meaning of what I'm doing.
I would like to talk with you about art and art fields and what's happening right now in the art field. But before that, I would like to ask last question about how you're communicating with your children. In the book of Bell Hooks, All About Love, she's giving the example of, she says that we are teaching children to lie, basically. For example, little children, when they are breaking something, we punish them. And they understand, they learn that the next time when they are breaking something, if they're gonna tell the truth, they will be punished. So instead of telling the truth from very, very early age, they start to learn how to lie. And I believe this is how also we start to learn how to not to be honest in the society. And so because it's, as we have the baby tank that we talked before, this dangerous thing, this toxic thing that when it's going to be big, it will become very dangerous. But when it's very slow, actually, it's obvious that our society, we are planting these seeds from the beginning of the children, in the mind of the children. Because children, when they are born, they are not racist. They are not misogynist. They are not homophobic. They are not transphobic. They are giving love to everything. They are telling the truth all the time. But we live, I believe, in a verbot culture. This forbidden culture, and we shape from very early age the children how to lie. Your personal experience with your children? How is it actually, this truth-telling with your children? Because one example, I remember, I hope my mom is not watching this video, but I remember I was 4 years old and there was a big family dinner, and I was under the table where everybody's feet, they were touching each other and everything. I was touching people and it was smelling so weird. And I remember I took my mother's skirt off. I was 3 years old, and I screamed over there, it smells so bad, and something like that. And my mom, she was so ashamed, and I got punished over there, for example. So I didn't have to say when there was a bad smell, that it was smelling bad. You know what I mean? So these are small things, but yeah, these are making giant effects. I mean, it was a very kinky and pink example, but there are very big ones, actually, that people, they slap on their children if they do one little mistake.
But I mean, I think there's also two ways of looking at it. One is, being truthful, not lying, and trying to just stay honest. And the other thing is also how to live in society, how to live in community. And for example, this is right now a very big task for me with my son, who isn't there yet. He's not really in his mindset part of a community. He has to learn this. And for learning this, he's going always to boundaries. So you were mentioning breaking glass, throwing stones, saying things like you just, very truthful, but, pointing at someone and saying, this man is fat. No, it's maybe a woman, very loud. But this person is considering themselves as a man, but is big, and he's pointing directly at this person from 2 meters away and saying things like this. And then, how do I react then? I need to also explain to him that there are rules how to respect. And with respect, there's just this line. It's not about lying, it's not about punishment, but there is a line that he cannot cross. Some things he has to just keep for himself or communicate just, let's say, to me or the close person accompanying him, and not, and it's a very difficult situation, because he was right. This person could have looked like a big female body, but he hurt this other person, and this was in public. There were other people. Obviously, people had to start to laugh, because not because laughing at this person, but laughing at this child who just. And then I couldn't tell him, no, it's not true what you're saying. This person is a man, and it's not, I didn't want to stand in for this other person this way, but I had to tell him that he can't do this. And this is really education. This is raising children. I didn't go to school for this, so I'm also learning day by day. But it's true that honesty, or let's say being truthful, is only possible with trust. It's connected to trust. Because if you are afraid of saying the truth because you get punished, this is then what you mean, this kind of mechanism that they roll into. But there is this thing about being honest and also respecting. And
it has to be balanced.
It has to be balanced.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't know if it answers your question.
No. We don't have to find answers to our questions. I think the important thing is questioning it. Because even though we make a point on something, this point can be completely wrong tomorrow if it's correct today, Because even scientific truths, they are changing every 20 years, I mean, 10 years ago, fat was the most dangerous thing. Today is the sugar, fat is something good. And tomorrow it will be something totally different. The corrects and wrongs also, they are changing all the time. I believe it's, the main reason of having these dialogues with people is really questioning and what is going on in our minds. Because we don't also dare to talk about this. Today, now we are talking about soft stuff, but also slowly we will go to the darker questions maybe, but yeah, the important thing is questioning it, I believe.
I also had, it just came to my mind. I had a kind of, just because I started out with this whole public transport story, I had this, maybe I told you, maybe not, this incident or the situation I was brought into in a tram, sitting in a tram where two people. So in the trams in Basel, the seats are marked for people that are handicapped, can't see, or just, they have to be free for people that cannot make too many steps coming from the entry of the tram to finding a seat. and 2 young people were sitting on these 2 seats. And an elderly woman entered the tram, and she started shouting that she needs to sit there because she has a stick, and she's obviously old and handicapped. She was very angry that it was occupied and trying to make her point and getting louder. And then I turned around and I thought, shall I now interfere? And then I realized, no, because the interesting thing was these were 2 handicapped teenagers. They could not speak. And they were so stunned by the fact that someone comes to them and says, you're not allowed to sit here because I'm handicapped, and they obviously couldn't speak. They tried to make some noises, and the woman would continue, but they got up and let the woman sit, and they were laughing. And I think they couldn't completely reflect on the situation, but I thought, I will not say anything. I will leave her in her anger. And I had the feeling a couple minutes later she was understanding that, and for me this was a very beautiful situation where, this is so important that these people meet these different kind of generations, different kind of perspectives and expectation toward public space and also just connected to this, I also find it very important to have handicapped people in our world, to have people that are different and didn't decide maybe, and I don't want to, distinguish, but so it's not about gender, this topic, but just they came to the world the way they are.
Exactly.
And they also enrich really society by by twisting. They're basically by their own very present doing this. They're shouting out loud, they're making noises, they're being angry maybe if it's in their nature, that meaning their whole life, or capable of things that maybe a normal, educated child is not capable of because they have a different sense of something specific. So I think this is something that is worrying me a bit because we are lacking more and more in the Western society, handicapped people, because of a lot of choice making by the very beginning of having by the decision of having a baby and how to handle pregnancies. And this is not that I disrespect choices of people that do them, but it's something that in society in general, I find it very important.
Yeah. So, shall we talk a little bit about art? Because for me, I mean, if I have to pick someone who has to represent the artist community, maybe in Basel, it would be you. Because I think you have such a good energy and synergy to follow, observe people and know people, and you have a great ear to listen what are the tendencies in the art field, especially in Basel. I mean, from the school Institute Kunst with very young artists to the older generations, and you give this attention to understand what's happening, and you are literally representing us. And this sensitivity that you have is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to invite you here to talk about art. Because I'm very thankful in my personal problems, I know that for many, many problems, you've been always this key person to make this domino effect that it works for the good of the people. And this is something undeniably important for me, at least. So let's talk about a little bit artist situation. Maybe as you feel, we can look at that in the Switzerland level or global level or just Basel, Canton Basel-Stadt. But I have the feeling like artists, they are not that much respected. In the sense of, meanwhile, I think Basel is the place that I was shocked when I moved here. That I have never been in my life in another place who has more knowledge about art. Like random regular people in the streets, they know here about art. They have a big respect for artists and etc. But what I'm talking here is in the system, you know, because we have a lot of problems of paper, or we have a lot of problems of artist fee or artist rights, and I mean, especially during this pandemic period. Do you remember at the beginning of the beginning in March, end of March, something like that? I called you and we talked immediately. Hanna, we have to do something, you know, because how the artists they gonna earn money? They won't gonna have job. We have to come together, write a letter together, not only for the artists but also for the domestic violence, for the climate change, for something. We artists, we have to come together and maybe even with institutions come together, deliver a letter to the canton. And also, I believe the best system, political system in the world, it's happening in Switzerland, the direct democracy. I mean, you can start one little thing in your own canton with signatures and everything. And it was so difficult to even move on from this beginning, because, and also it's so depressing, I find, that it took 1 year for the politicians to get an initiative and help to artists. And it was for me the catastrophe to see that, I mean, because, you know, we don't want to believe that art is decoration for rich people. We don't want to believe that. We are not artists for that. But during this pandemic situation, for 1 year, we've been ignored, silenced. At least this is what was seen. As I said at the early beginning of the conversation, in the art field, everything happens behind of the walls, procedures, we don't know them. We just see the results. Maybe there been something, but obviously there been no results until this month. And you talked with many people who were in a very difficult positions. I was engaged as well, and we wanted to help each other. There was a very nice solidarity in between, but also it showed how much we were lonely, at least in the emotional level. I mean, I don't want to say, make a big criticism. Maybe these people, they wanted to do something behind of the walls, but we didn't see it. And I know a lot of people who are hungry, you know, and this is something also very important to talk, I believe. So, do you have something to say about that? Because I talk so much, sorry, but at the same time, I was questioning, is there a communication problem, or people who are in this art field, because it's not only artists and XY people. I mean, there are curators, there are I don't know, there are directors, there are communication people, there are so many representatives for one thing, you know. In the end of the day, there is only the name of the institution and the name of the artist, but behind of that, there are so many people are working. And yeah, I mean, why we can't come together and make something? Are these other people, don't know the artist's life? I mean, because in generally, when you have an exhibition or something, from the cleaning person of the institution or the gallery, whatever, until the director, everybody is paid except the artist. Everybody is paid except the artist. I mean, I checked, I had more or less 50 exhibitions during the last years. I calculated, and except this specific price exhibitions, I received 3 times artist fee. And only one was 1,000, the others, they were ridiculous monies. You know? Ridiculous monies. I mean, what's happening over here? Why people, they treat us as if we can survive without money? which, I mean, I have to pay a rent as well, you know? I have to make health insurance as well. I have to eat food. You have a child, two children. So, okay, after saying so much, please, I want to listen your words.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a global problem, really. Or this is the problem of how the artists are perceived, you know. They're not perceived as workers. They're perceived as artists. So it's something like specific, different than any other kind of job. And the difficulty is that maybe art or artist is not explicitly exposed to an audience always. It's maybe different for the musicians, it's mostly the same. For the performance art actors, it's almost similar. I wouldn't say, you know, there are different kind of problematics and issues connected to that. But so there's always, in front of just only looking at an artist's life and work life, there's always this institutional and commercial level between. And I think this is why a lot of people don't see this. They don't understand what it means, and that, yes, you need to pay your rent, or, there is a failure in the system. There is no space for this kind of labor. It's not accepted yet as labor fully. There are a lot of initiatives. There's, in Switzerland specifically, Visate, fighting since decades for, let's say, the right of the artist's labor, including it in the system of a nation, basically. And but we're not there yet, totally. And on the other hand...
Why do you think, I'm sorry to cut here, but why do you think it's that slow? Why, I mean, is there a problem in the process, or is there a problem between the artists that we do something wrong, or it is this process of making this label of artists is just, I mean, it's not cared by the people who are supposed to make the change?
I think, I mean, or the problematic is like on one side a bureaucratic problem, because as we see, institutions, they move very slow.
Yeah.
We as artists, you can make a decision. You decided to open this up here.
Yeah.
You decided to have dialogues. This is not something the institutions were capable of just initiating and doing, and doing it initially. You know, they can do it
by themselves.
They will do it.
Yeah.
But it takes time, and this might take years. and
I find it crazy.
Yeah, but I think this is really in the nature of this thing. And then we also have the market situation.
Yeah.
So we do have artists, and we do have galleries, and that are making money. That are, it's like the political situation globally.
But it's
we
like
have
an
a percentage, exactly. But this is the ice. So many people see only the top of the iceberg. So in this top of the iceberg might represent all the artists. And that's where the problem starts, because obviously they're not representing artists in general. Yeah. And so it's about perception, I would say. It's not about intention, that there are bad intentions towards it. But if you would start a public discussion about this now, immediately go out to the marketplace and start speaking to people, you will easily, very fast, realize that this is how artists are perceived. It's like the top of this iceberg. Yeah. It's the beautiful work that is worth of a lot, or there is like a lot of value added to something, or this specific thing called art, and not differentiated, and also not accepted and seen that this is a fundamental part of culture, of society, of just being, you know, inhabiting a nation. And it adds value. It adds value. There's no question about it. But I think there is like a big lack of understanding.
But I believe it cannot be changed only if we work, if we do that. We need people who are inside of the cultural field, who are not artists, but who are maybe curators or directors of institutions, or anybody who are, they have to also mention it, say it. We have to underline it, insist it all together. It cannot be only artists, because these are topics that we artists, we talk more or less every gathering. No? When we are behind of the walls, we always talk about these money issues, how we have to survive, how did you do that, we give each other advices, etc. But it should be communicated directly in the whole group of the cultural people. I mean, I believe we cannot make any change if these people, they don't get engaged. We can't. We can't. It's the same thing that I try to say for any type of human rights. Let's give the example LGBTQ plus rights. Like I try to be activist all the time about this. I want to talk about this, mention it, etc., etc. But unless other people who don't define themselves in the LGBTQ plus community, in the family, engage with us, there will be zero change. I mean, for me, I mean, people, I think it shouldn't be there. We shouldn't have separations. Oh, you have this. You are an artist bubble. Oh, you are LGBTQ plus bubble. You are this bubble. You are this bubble. You are this bubble. I think we shouldn't be that separated and just focusing on our own problems. We have to be engaged in everything with love and respect in the name of I don't know, equality. Which is one of the most important thing in a democracy.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the way where we start, let's say, where we can start this active dialogue, make changes, is by being explicit. You're doing it right now beautifully, as you're really talking about things. You're being explicit. But many artists, cultural workers also, as they are maybe surrounded by a close, like-minded community, they might, and I'm not blaming us, the artists, but they might forget that many people, they don't understand, they don't see. So the way kind of to go is to literally be explicit about the situation, talk about it. If you have an exhibition, talk about this topic. It doesn't have to be subject of your work, but talk about the situation that you're in, the reality of how art is being created, how you come to an idea, how you make decisions, and what this all involves. And only this, because this problem you can find everywhere, not just in public transportation.
Yeah, exactly. But do you think, is there a mini auto-censorship here? That, I mean, we are maybe afraid of being explicit. Like, because I mean, obviously, I don't feel this auto-censor that I really try to talk all the time about political topics or etc. And but I just think that we have to be much more explicit. But I see from the people that when we are together, artists, we are able to talk about these things. We are even able to give names, you know. But when we have to be out of this wall and become explicit, a lot of people, they are just afraid of losing their jobs or their contacts. They don't want to point and say, hey, the king is naked. You know what I mean? There is this auto-censorship. Or pressure of you shouldn't talk, because if you talk too much, you will be probably excluded from that if you don't have good supporters behind of you. And everybody doesn't have good supporters. Everybody, yeah. I mean, maybe we are very social people and we like to talk with people, get engaged with people, but everybody is not like that. There are many introverted people and they feel immediately, I believe, that's my observation, auto-censor. They have to make this auto-censor to not talk about any problems. Because if they will talk, nobody would be interested to expose them, make an exhibition about them or something. If I want to ask to an institution where I have a show, do you have an artist fee? First of all, the institution is not used to hear that question. Second of all, if I insist, I became this insisting person, and then obviously it starts to bother after a while. I'm not talking about all institutions or everything. I'm just trying to give a couple of examples from my experiences. It's not all the time, but it happens also a lot. Yeah. So once you have this experience once, you start to get scared. Will I be able to dare to ask this artist fee next time for this new person? Because also there are dinosaurs, in this art field that they already give a giant, energy domination on you that you don't even have a moment to express yourself or ask your legitimate human rights to be paid for your job. Yeah. What do you think about this auto-censorship when it comes to become explicit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same again with some people that have the possibility and some not. It's also about expectations coming from the artist community. For example, if you're offered a prize by a big company that is ruining, that is known for being politically unacceptable, but they offer you a huge lump of money, and every artist I know across our border of Switzerland would say immediately yes. Why not? They need this money, and it's not about their own, let's say, it's not about positioning themselves specifically in a social environment, but it's just about money, just plain money without. But then I understand what you mean. If you start to be a troublemaker, it's going to be difficult to lobby, to create a lobby. It's going to be difficult to move forward. But I think if you always stick to this plan of just, speaking out or being, again, explicit, there are ways to use parasite strategies to announce it, to address the problem of, for example, buying food, and I think I would encourage everybody to not be afraid of it, even though maybe I'm also not the type of person that the first thing I do if I step into a door of, let's say, a museum is asking how much my artist fee will be, or I had to also learn a way of dealing with it and also differentiate, because it's not just black and white, also this topic, because we are also talking about, for example, artist-run spaces that now suddenly in our circle here, people expect to get paid.
Of course.
But then at the same time, the people running the space aren't paid. So there is a lot of, also problematics in this whole thing. But I think the main thing is to create an understanding of this work, of this labor, that we also contribute to society, and it's not just about our own let's say, fulfillment or career or whatever, that actually it's really, pouring into something bigger and not just like an economic market situation. Yeah. I think, I don't know if this answers again, but it's a topic that I deal with a lot, as I'm not known for producing work that are easy commercially sellable or, you know.
I think there is, you know it much better. You are much more engaged at the school than me. I think as we talked before at the baby tank metaphor, like we have to maybe go at the beginning of this situation. Maybe in the art schools, there must be a mandatory meetings with lawyers or with people who has experiences in the art. They tell to the people, to these young students, how to talk, how to ask them money, what are their artist rights, how to dialogue with these dinosaurs, monsters, or etc., etc. You know, I think this is something fundamental. If we don't do that, I mean, in the school there are also so many people. They are so Pollyanna, you know. Everything can be all right and etc. If they don't know, because here in the school we have a paradise situation with all these workshops and everything, all the conditions of the school, and right after the school there is no such a thing. You are alone. Maybe it should start at the school of this. Saying the truth, how it will be after, and preparing, confronting with this young artist with the reality. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, one aim, I guess, I can only speak for myself in the school is to somehow during the period of being in this situation of being an artist, studying art. Learning to be an artist, because at some point the moment comes where hopefully all of them say, I am an artist. But as long as they're a student, they're students. And everything can be tried out, everything can be, it's like, let's say, there's no borders or boundaries. There shouldn't be. There should be a hub that is so-called education and school where you explore, where you really don't, think about many things, and you, not in general think about many, but where you really try to create, try to formulate your specific questions, and for that, this period of time is very important. And my personal aim is also to kind of work on how can one create their own, in German you say Haltung, it could be even stamina.
Yeah.
How to make a stamina while studying art, this is how you survive.
Yes.
In general, it's not about art, it's not about making art, it's not about being an artist, but it's just about being a human being in the world. And also, if you want to survive, if you want to make your own work, if you want to stick with it, and this doesn't mean you're not allowed to do something else aside, but then you need to develop your own language. And if you have this, then you're fine. And I'm not saying this to say, okay, after school everything's easy and you can just make work, you will have a studio and everything. No, it's not. No. But while you study, if you get aware of the situation you're in and the situation you have outside of a school, and you learn to combine this, then you're fine. And I think, it's important to include, we're still on it, it's all a process, to include more and more, let's say even lawyers, as you mentioned, bureaucracy issues, but you don't want to create an institute, a school that is only focusing how to handle a formula, like a specific way of bureaucracy, but to bring it, to make it accessible, yes, but it's not about training one.
Of course. But also, it's not a training model, but it's also, I don't know. I find that it's like one of the four fundamental elements of it, to knowing what is its position in the society. Because also, if we don't talk about that enough, we still stay in a bubble that will pop up, and after you have to create a new bubble right after the school. Yeah.
But it's also a lot about observation.
Sure.
So it's just about, you really learn by observing, bringing people into school, look how they're doing, look how they're handling it, going out, look at this exhibition, look how it's being set up, look how it, the decisions that are around it, speaking to people, how did you do it, how,
Completely, I agree.
Because there's no linear strategy, unfortunately.
Yeah, completely. But at the same time, when you are engaged, for example, invited artists to school, that the students, they are meeting with them to understand their experiences, these guests, etc. But at the same time, how much this guest is sharing the hardcore stories behind of it. It's much more like a very general, the general story is shared, not the fights behind of the walls with the, I don't know, or the struggle, etc. I don't know. For example, I worked in the art galleries before studying art, or I was assistant of artists, etc. And I don't remember. I mean, I found it fantastic. It was even better than school, to be honest. But to be, you know what? Why it was better? Because I saw this ugly side of the stuff as well. That's why. But I believe if when somebody is coming to the school as a guest, doesn't talk that much about the ugly stuff. It stays, that's what I succeeded, that's what I did, this is my exhibition, that's extra. I don't know. I really agree with you. It shouldn't be like a framing program, because, I don't know.
I think it also has to do because someone is coming to school. If the school goes to someone, then you experience it. Like if you do studio visits, if you approach artists outside of the school, then you realize what is behind. Because if I am invited to some kind of school, I'm not going to come and say, well, I don't know how next year will look like, or, all these kind of, let's say also, or I don't know how I will actually manage to go through this year. I have kids, I have a partner, there's a lot of burden also connected to this. And then suddenly I involve a community into my, personal, let's say, structural problems where I know it would help them to relate. If they come to my place, it's a different thing. Then suddenly they become part of my, my space. And so this is also a thing. But let's say I try to make this bridge also outside of school to, include the different realities of being an artist in society.
So I guess we have to finish a little bit. We are coming to the end, but I have also 2 questions to you. Last, very quick. One, do you have any wish in the sense of expecting for a change? It can be from your loved one, it can be from your children, it can be from your boss, it can be from art world, Basel, Switzerland, the globe, whatever. Do you have any wish to see as a change, as a quick change, something?
I think I mentioned it already now a couple of times. I think this explicitness, this is really something I wish, I urge for. Also the people surrounding me, that be explicit and let's say step out of your bubble. And I don't mean this in terms of start to be activist in a expected activist way, but to just talk about your life with everybody. I mean, share the problems, share the questions, and be explicit about them, because many people don't understand, and they will only understand if you're explicit.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dorian.
And the
you have
second
another
question
question?
I'm gonna ask after the camera, behind of the camera. However, thank you so much for coming and sharing this stage with me.
Thank you,
I really
Dorian.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching us. Next week, I'm gonna have a talk with Maya Wisma, the new head of the Kunstmuseum Basel's Gegenwart. And we're gonna try to go 1 week an artist and 1 week someone from the cultural institutional art community from Switzerland. So thanks for watching us, and see you. Bye.
Bye.
Je vois la vie en rose.